Hello everyone. Let's continue with our discussion, introduction to Angular. So till now we have seen what is the Angular, what are the single page applications, what are the components in, what is the CLI command line interface in Angular, which lets you create Angular projects, it lets you create components, services, etc. We have also seen how to create a basic components, what is inside the component. Okay, so let's continue the discussion now. So what is the look and feel of the Angular application? Okay, so by default, Angular application will use a HTML and you will have very basic looking applications. But if you want to improve their look and feel, then you can use some CSS libraries such as Bootstrap. Okay, so you can simply go inside your project, you can install npm, you can file the command npm install Bootstrap, and yeah, it will add a Bootstrap in your node modules folder. Okay. So when we are developing a web application with a Bootstrap and jQuery, we need to include its .css and .js files in our HTML pages. We can do this with Angular, but usually Angular has a file .angular or .cli.json where we can include the CSS and JavaScript code that we'll use in our project. So every project has angular.json file, and inside that you can add a CSS and JS file entries of the Bootstrap and jQuery. So there is a styles attribute. If you see in the styles, by default there is a styles.css. So if you install a Bootstrap, then you can inside the node modules there will be Bootstrap folder. Inside there will be distribution CSS, and there will be some CSS files. So you can pick one of them and you can make an entry of that Bootstrap here. Similarly, in the scripts attribute, you can add a jQuery and also Bootstrap min.js. Okay, so that's quite good. Then now we can open the home component template HTML file and use some Bootstrap CSS class. So inside your HTML code now you can simply, for any div tag or any other tag, you can use a class, and you can provide some predefined classes such as container, panel, panel success, panel heading, panel body. Okay, like that, and they will implement or apply the corresponding cascading style sheet to that particular block in the HTML. Looks nice, feels nice. So for example, this. Right, so here what you have done is you have created a container, so everything shifts to the right. Okay, then you have given the panel success, then panel heading and panel body. Okay, so that's a panel. Okay, and this is a panel success, things like that you can create. So this comes in a panel heading and this comes in a panel body. So this is the heading and this is the body. Then we can also use a Bootstrap template in our project. Angular projects have assets folder that we can use to put static files like images, HTML, templates, etc. Let's use in our project the SB admin to Bootstrap theme. Okay, so this is one of the theme that you can use. Then adding SB admin to Bootstrap theme, first you have to download it. Adding SB Bootstrap theme, copy its contents in the assets directory. So in the assets directory, you can simply copy that theme, and then add its JS and CSS files in the Angular CLI JSON file. So you can make entry of this SB admin to CSS here and SB admin to JS files here. Okay, and adding the SB admin to Bootstrap theme. Now we can use the SB admin to elements in the Angular components HTML file, and yeah, such components can be used. So as you can see, the theme is applied now, nice and cool. Now data binding is one of the important topic. So in the data binding, it allows us to read the primitives or the object values from the component properties in the template, that is the HTML file. So HTML file has some output and its corresponding, there is a class right in the backend, and in the backend you can create such members like a company name, that's your company name, and you can use this company name in the HTML code by using these two angular brackets. Okay, so that is called as a binding, data binding. So whenever this changes, this also changes in the HTML output. Okay. Then there is a property binding. Now that was the this is the binding, a simple data binding. Now this is a property binding. So Angular executes the expression and assigns it to the property of an HTML element, a component, or a directive. So for example, this is how you do the property binding. Okay, using a square bracket. So now there is released member, which is a Boolean type. If it is a true, then it will assign false to this one. If it is a false, then it will assign true to this hidden one. So hidden is like a attribute of this HTML element, and that attribute value can be assigned using these values. So that's called as a property binding. Then there is event binding. So a component method responds to an event raised by an element, component, or directive. So events are used in this rounded bracket. So there is an event called as ng-submit. So whenever this event happens, we will call this function add item. So this method will get called. So this is called as event binding. You are binding this event to this function in the backend. Then there is a two-way data binding. It takes a combination of setting a specific element property and listening for an element change event. So this both ways, right? So we have a name, which is a string type. So that's usually the method, or that's usually the type of the TypeScript, how to specify the types. So that's a variable name colon type name is equal to value. Okay. So there is a name string now. Then two-way binding, you can use a property plus event binding. So this is a property binding. So you are assigning the property value from this member, and this is the event, and you input event, and on that input event, what you are doing is name is equal to $event.target.value. So you are doing two things, right? You are updating this name based on the event input event, and you are assigning the value, this value, by using the name, whatever is the name, right? Or you can use this syntax directly, this angular bracket ng model and then this bracket and is equal to name. So it will handle both the things. It will apply the value as well as it will apply the event. Whenever event changes, whenever value changes in the text box, it will update this name, and whenever a name changes, it will update this text box like that. So that's the event binding plus property binding. That's the ng model. They call it yeah, nice two-way binding. Okay. And that's it for the current tutorial. We have seen the more basics. We have seen what is the data binding, what is one-way data binding, what is property binding, event binding, and then this is a two-way binding. So this is quite useful in Angular, and I hope you have learned a lot of things from it. Let's continue in the next lecture.